Now, let's go to the family time with God. And point number one, we're looking at Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 4 through 6. And this point is family time with God starts with a personal relationship and fellowship with God. Notice in verse number 4, it says, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord, and thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thine heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy might. And these words which I command thee this day shall be in thine heart. Verse 4 tells us there is but one God. That one God, Jehovah God, is the God of my life. Jehovah God is the God of my family. I want him to be the Lord of my life and the Lord of my family. The Jehovah God of the Old Testament, dear friend, is the Jesus of the New Testament. Jesus said in John chapter 8, verses 56 through 58, and in verse number 58, during that conversation, he said these words, Verily, verily, I say unto you, before Abraham was, I am. In that statement, Jesus was identifying himself as the I am of the Old Testament. Jesus is the Jehovah God. He is God robed in human flesh. He is God, our Emmanuel. Verse number 5 lets us know to have a personal love for God. We need to have that personal love. We are to love the Lord our God with all our heart, soul, and with our might. But it teaches us that as we love the Lord our God with all our heart, God should be deeply rooted in our own heart, divinely implanted in our soul, and daily lived out before our family. If I'm going to love my wife, Tracy, the way that Christ wants me to love her, as Ephesians 5:25 says, to husbands to love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself for it, then, dear friend, I'm going to have to love her through the love of God. If I'm going to love my children the way I should, then I'll love my children with the love of God. That love that God has inside of me will also play into their life and will be exhibited in my love for them. And so it goes through the family. Our love is rooted in God, and then our love will be given out to our family. Verse 6, what you daily teach your children from the Bible must be first in thine heart. Notice it says, I read this verse again, and these words which I command thee this day shall be in thine heart. Our children will look to see if God's word is in our heart. Children look to see, I think, if the Bible is real to dad and mom. They're going to want to know, not only is the Bible real, but dear friend, they're going to ask, I think they're looking for to see if God is real, if church is real, if our relationship with Christ is just a phony one, a hypocritical one. I've said many times that I believe that children are able to spot a phony miles away, you see. And so they're going to be looking. So what you daily teach your children from the Bible must first be in thine heart.